you go. You're good.
Welcome to Intern Pursuit Live, the show all about internships and how to survive them. This is Jerron.
This is Isabella.
And this is Andy, and joining us for this episode is Aubrey Gonzalez. How are you, Aubrey?
I'm well, thank you.
Outstanding. Now, coming up in this episode of Intern Pursuit, we are going to be talking with Aubrey. She's our guest for the Intern Spotlight later on. We're going to talk about some great leaders with her, some coolest things in innovation. We're going to talk about if training games can improve your memory and learning. And we may have some other things that we get to coming up later on as well.
All right, so we want to give social plugs. We want to make sure that we're letting you know how you can find us. On Facebook page, you can find us at facebook.com/pivotbizconsult. You can find us at facebook.com/internpursuit. And guess what, people? There is now a Facebook game. There's an Intern Pursuit game, and there's a Facebook page for that. So we also have facebook.com/intern pursuit game. So you can find us on all of those channels. You can find us on Twitter, our at intern p game, our Pivot LinkedIn page, our Listen Live. So sign up for our show notes, and you'll be able to hit us up in the chat so you can find out how to get our show notes, and we'll be happy to share that information with you.
You know, there's a little bit of a problem with the game.
What is it?
The music is too good.
It is awesome.
I
isn't
had
it?
the music on, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to leave the game up and have that as background music because I really liked it.
That is nice to hear. And I know
Yeah.
Sophie, who was our guest in week 2, would like to hear that also.
Yeah, it was really good music. So there's an issue there.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. No, it was really good.
That is nice to hear. Thank you.
But first, let's talk about our first sponsor. Canvas Starter Studio, an accelerator and co-working area. Cool co-working space to 100 plus companies. There we go. Working in areas of technology and supportive businesses. A healthy startup community doesn't exist in a bubble, and Canvas is working to connect startups to broader entrepreneurial ecosystems that will help them grow. You can find them at their website at canvas.org. Thank you, Canvas.
Love Canvas. Such a cool spot.
It is.
Such a cool spot to work in and hang out and learn from others. And it's just a really cool community there. So well worth it.
Yep. The new starters are getting ready to come in. They've picked, and now there's not 8, they're going to bring in 10.
Wow, that's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a lot of people, yeah.
That is. I'll have to swing by and check it out. That's going to be a lot of cool people there.
They're supposed to come in next week.
All right, so Aubrey Gonzalez, you work for Kempfer.
No,
Is that-
that's her last
Oh, it's
name.
your last name. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was like, so you are an association manager.
And yes,
What does that entail as an entire job?
well, I handle property management,
Okay.
handling property taxes and maintenance.
That sounds like a lot of numbers.
Yes, a lot.
All right, so we ask you some questions here. We ask all of our guests these questions. Want to ask you about 3 leaders, either living or dead, on a global, local, and personal level that you deem to be extraordinary. So living or dead on a global level, someone you deem to be extraordinary.
First, I would say on a personal level, I would say God is a good leader. Just for me personally, because he just sets so much good morals and standards, how to live on a day-to-day basis. Another good leader for me would be Martin Luther King, on like a social level, because he brought a lot of awareness to, a lot of, things going on.
Sure.
So he changed a lot of things historically. So he's a good leader for me as well.
Local level.
On a local level, I would say, well, not really locally, but the governor, Rick Scott.
Rick Scott, all right.
Yes.
We'll call him local to Florida.
Yeah. He's done a great job, turning a couple things around in the Florida
Economy?
Yeah, and the economy and, even in social issues, the way that he's handling the Puerto Rico incident right now, I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
Outstanding. Martin Luther King was also my choice when I was in the hot seat. So right there with you. So now we're going to define your definition of innovation.
Oh, wait, we
What's
didn't
that?
hear her personal leader.
That was the one she started off with God.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the global one, though. Because,
No,
to
that
me,
was
that's
MLK.
global. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's all right.
Yeah.
We can talk about God again.
But I see God was first, so that's
Yeah,
cool.
there you
That's
go.
cool.
So,
Yeah.
so innovation, what does it mean to you? And what is something cool that you've seen that's innovative?
Innovation to me, I think it's, a way of doing things differently instead of just following a straight line, finding a loophole or a more creative approach. That's innovation to me.
I like that. And what is something cool that you've seen that's innovative here recently?
I think just a change in cars, compared to back in the day, compared to now, some cars, they have like the anti-brake system. They can stop on their own. That's innovation to me.
What about self-driving cars? Driverless cars?
Yes, that's definitely innovative.
Yeah, that's like crazy. I don't know if I would trust getting in a car that I couldn't control. That just totally boggles my mind and scares me.
I feel like at this point we have no choice. That's just the future.
But you ride a bus and a train,
True.
and you don't.
Somebody else is driving it, though.
but it's
There's a
not
human.
you,
have
and
to
you're
trust
not
them.
controlling it.
I know, but okay, then let me rephrase that. It's a human. There's a
Okay.
human there.
Okay. So, all right, I'll give you that. There's a human being controlling it. So you believe in the that humans are less fallible than a computer.
I think that a person can go and mess with that computer.
This is
and
true.
Then, we're all on a missile that's going to go and explode no matter where it is. So I feel like that can happen. There's a chance of that happening. And that is greater than the actual person that's driving whatever the vehicle is.
So long as we don't have any distracted drivers.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
That they're
That
not
is
like on their
huge.
phone.
Yeah, everyone
they're
likes to text now,
texting,
so.
yeah.
You know what's going to be? They're not going to be on their phones. They're going to be driving on their phones in the car.
Yeah.
That's going to be their interface now.
That
It's
could
right
be.
there. It's
Like,
gonna be-
yeah.
kind of crazy. So, Aubrey, you were an intern, and you've worked with interns.
Yes.
So you've been on both sides of that fence. What was your experience like as an intern?
As an intern, it was very eye-opening because you see like the behind-the-scenes things that, the normal public doesn't really get to see. So it was very eye-opening, and it was a learning experience.
Where'd you intern at?
I interned at Pivot Business Consulting.
Oh, okay. So you saw all the behind-the-scenes things at Pivot.
Yes.
Very. So we do ask a question, and this always gets fun when Isabella's in the room when I ask this question. Were you just thrown to the wolves, thrown to the fire, or were you given a ramp-up process, an onboarding process?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
She had to, cut the umbilical cord. And,
Sure.
I had to, learn as I go. She couldn't give me the answers. I had to learn it.
That's how a lot of people, that's the best way to learn.
Yes.
For people, make the mistakes, learn from the mistake, and continue. If you make the mistake again and again, you're not learning from
Of
it, different
course.
story. But if you learn, that's important.
Yes.
Yeah, she was empowered a lot. And then as she was developing throughout her internship, I'd say, okay, so these are the things that have to be done, go through this. And how she went about that was a decision that she got to make herself. But it was really more of, I didn't have to hold her hand. I knew that she had those leadership tendencies in herself, and she was very problem-solving oriented and very task-oriented. So she could go through a lot of figuring out how to make it happen. She was creative with those ability to solve the problems that I was presenting with
Oh,
her.
very good.
Yeah.
So on the other side of the fence, you've had interns. How's that worked out for you so far?
I guess we helped each other out, where you were weak somewhere, somebody else that was strong, they would help you and, guide you.
Kind of peer mentoring, right?
Yes.
I like that.
Definitely
Yeah.
peer
We
mentoring.
learned from each other, yeah.
So now that you're working, what are some skills and lessons that you learned as an intern that are helping you out now in your day-to-day job?
Definitely time management. I did learn that, and I still use that like every single day in my day-to-day job. I would say professional skills and, how to communicate effectively in the workplace.
So some of the things that she was tasked with learning, she was working with me on a nonprofit, and we were focusing on fundraising. We were having to put together some sponsorship lists. She was building databases so we could get social content going out. She was learning how to blog. She discovered that she didn't like to blog, so that was a good thing. So an internship should also be something where you can see, I absolutely love this, and no, I do not like this.
Exactly.
Sure. So now that you've been through it, what are some words of wisdom that you can share with others, people going through either college or their own internships?
I would definitely, advise someone to at least take one semester of an internship, because there's a lot that you can learn. Not only just professionally, but even personally that you can use in day-to-day life. That would be my advice to them.
What is it that you like the best out of the internship?
There's so much to choose. I guess, just getting the realization of, this is really what I want. Some people, they think that they know exactly what they want to do, and then when they try it, like you said, you might not like it. So for me, I ended up liking it even more. And so, I enjoyed it.
And so one of the things that she learned is that she wanted to get involved with a nonprofit. She even was thinking, I want to go and start a program with a nonprofit, or maybe start a nonprofit because of that experience. So that was something that was a good takeaway for her.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
That's definitely going to be worthwhile for other people who are either entering an internship or considering entering an internship. It's always good to hear words of advice from someone who's gone through it. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Oh, and we didn't share this. Where did you graduate? Where did you go to school?
Valencia.
Okay.
Wow, how about that? A little shout out to
It all
VC
comes full
Radio.
circle.
Yeah, really important to give that little shout out. And what was your degree?
Business management.
Yeah.
Fantastic degree to have.
Yeah. So that's why her experience was a little bit more well-rounded when we were talking. I knew that she wanted to be able to understand the management side and the marketing side of it. So I gave her a lot of skills or tasks that were designed around that type of preference and what her degree was going to be. So that was pretty good.
That is very good.
Yeah. So do we not have music today? I'm just
No,
kind of
we
curious.
don't.
Okay, so I'm
Sorry.
like missing my music.
I could hum if that would help.
No, it's not going to sound the same as Sophie's music. That's
Yeah.
the Intern Pursuit game music.
Yeah, well, that played. You just didn't hear that when it played.
Oh, did I miss that?
No,
It's there.
It's there. It was just on a different channel.
Okay.
So, and then our other little musics. Yeah, I left to cable it. It
Rats.
didn't bring it with me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
So-
maybe we can play it again later if we still have time, so that our guests can hear it.
We might be able to work something out for
Okay.
that. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
So let's go ahead and shift gears, and we're going to talk about how training games, if they can improve our memory or not, or even learning
Yep.
and our learning habits. So impart your wisdom with us on this.
Okay, so I was looking at how games. I've gone to a conference that's called ITSEC, and it's all about experiential learning through gaming. Whether it's help me out here.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. There's simulations at it.
There you go.
There's
Thank
military
you. That's the
combat
word.
training.
There you
There
go.
is there's full scale driving where you have vehicles.
Artificial intelligence,
Yeah, there's
all of
tons of
those
stuff.
things. That's
Yeah.
those were the words I was looking for. So thank you for saving me there. So anyway, when I went to that conference, I was going, look at all of the great ways that we see this in the healthcare industry, obviously in defense, and every aspect of our life. Now, in the human resources department, there's a trend to start bringing gaming into the actual learning experience. And part of that is using it as little microbyte learning, and that's really where people either have games. So, for example, this was a game that was used for training nurses. They had a memory game where they had to look at the game, it was a surgical board, and they had all types of equipment, and they had to write as much of the pieces of equipment that they would use, whether it was tweezers and gauze and scissors and things like that. and be able to see how much that they could identify that was on the board. And that is supposed to help them with their recognition and being in that crisis mode of an emergency, like a crash cart. So that was a really interesting game that was there. And they have these other games that are geared towards even the retail space. So it might go through simple little policies and procedures. There's just different ways that games can be included, where there's a pre-test, the little learning component, and then a post-test, and that's how they measure that. So anyway, one of the articles that I found, it was in Forbes, and I love Forbes magazine, and it was by an individual, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus from the 19th century, and he was a psychologist that conducted a study on memory loss known as the forgetting curve. I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, we know that, and we probably have all experienced this, that when we forget something, it's like gone. We go to a conference, whether it's a conference or some type of a learning activity, even though you're in school, it still applies. And you might get out of that setting like a day, 2 days, and if you are not actually implementing that into your everyday life, you begin to see that you've forgotten what you've learned. And it said 90% of the information that we originally learned is forgotten. That's huge. I don't know about you guys, but 90%, that's kind of scary. It really shows to me how much repetition we have to be able to maintain like the ability to speak, right? That would be one. And if you think about how all of the motor skills that we've learned, but even learning languages. So studies showed that training games are the answer to these types of questions. And according to, there's a founder of a creative agency called Dopamine. His name is Gabe Zickman. When employers make their employees work more and there's a fun factor around it, the employees' information retention and skills increased by 40%. So that's really a lot that you can actually get back into the workplace. So I was thinking about that even more, and I was going, we're in this setting right now. We have an intern with us, and Jaron is our intern, and he's learning how to be a producer of a show. And so there's this place where every week he has responsibilities, and there's a learning process for all of us, no matter what it is that we're doing. For myself, I was a financial analyst, a grants administrator and a financial analyst at a really big nonprofit. And I did it for 2 years, and I went, you know what, that's not what I am. I didn't like it. I didn't find, no matter how much I was doing that work day to day, I didn't necessarily like it. So being able to do work, and if we're using it as games to be able to reinforce that learning, is helpful. But maybe there's this place also that when we're learning, we need to be able to see, is this something I really enjoy learning? And is it really something that's going to help me develop even more? So those were my thoughts there. But the article kind of continued, and there's a magazine that I follow a lot. It's called Chief Learning Officer Media, and they did a 12-month study over 6,300 retail associates in the United States and Canada. And they had 2 different groups that were formed. And in the first group, training games were used to engage employees as part of the training process. And the employees played a game before they were asked to answer some training questions. So it might have been like, what are the opening procedures of the store? How are we supposed to do this? If something happens, an emergency happens in the store, how are you supposed to get your customers out of the store? These are things that are important to know, but we don't think about them, right? And the second group, the game feature was removed, and the employees were just asked to answer some training questions. Now, you can probably see the difference, because we know that when we actually use any type of processes, the more of our senses we use, the sight, the listening, the actual experiential side of it, it increases the opportunity for learning to stick with us. So the results of the study actually showed that the use of training games in their learning programs actually showed that the employees had a higher learning engagement. The learners with the games were more proactive in logging in more often for training compared to those that did not, and that the learners with the games retained more of the correct training knowledge than those with no game. So I thought that was a really interesting study, and I was kind of wondering here, among all of us in the room, have you ever had any gaming involved in your training programs, or think that it would have helped in anything that you've done? Now, nobody knew this question was coming.
No, that's fine. 'Cause
Yeah.
I have. So I was working for a defense contractor, and as a defense contractor, every year you have to pass a security audit. And it used to be a very mundane process to go take your security audit test, and it would ask you the same 50 questions, and they just word them differently, and it was just very tiresome. And it was very taxing for HR to get everybody to take the test and take the time to go do this because it was boring.
Yeah.
We then used one of our own internal products, which was a learning platform that we had, and moved the entire learning or examination and test process into that learning platform, which was more interactive. It had pictures, it had sound, and at the end of it, if you passed, you got an achievement certificate. That then it was everybody's in dates, time stamped, and how long it took you in the whole 9 yards, and it had a leaderboard. So now it became more of I got my badge of honor, my achievement unlocked for doing this. And by the way, I got the test done faster than you, and I scored a higher percentage than you. So it became more of an internal competition game, and you had, you could show something off rather than just HR knowing that you took and passed the test. It became more fun for everybody.
That sounds like a very progressive company.
It was a lot of fun. It was actually, they modeled that particular learning platform. It was a test for that learning platform to see if you could actually do something like that. And it was a phenomenal, successful test. So and then they started doing everything. Like your onboarding was through that. Every so often you would get a questions thrown in there about our 401k plan. So they started putting a lot of stuff into that format. So it was very fun.
Yeah, that is good. That actually shows me that there was a lot more application. Now, what did the other employees think about it? Did they like it?
For the most part, everybody liked it. There were some people who felt it'd be cheesy, but for the most part, all the engineers in that particular company were gamers themselves. So the culture had already lent itself to that outside of a couple of the engineers who weren't gamers. And there's like, oh, this is a waste of my time. Just give me the test on a piece of paper like we used to have it. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with the old Scantron days? Like, come on, Grandpa, get with the program and let's go. But that wasn't maybe 5 or 6 people out of a 250 plus person company. So a very, very small minority of us, of them rather.
So in that version, it'd be best to have both styles to kind of.
Nah, you got to jump in.
Okay.
Jump in. Now the other style was completely eliminated, and everybody went to the e-learning platform for it. So,
What about you? Have you experienced any of that in school? I'm kind of curious.
I haven't experienced anything in particular. I mean, based off the scenario you're telling me about, as a gamer, I feel like that would be something I actually would enjoy. Because I feel like in most things in school, like say, like since I'm a production major, it's like they always tell you like the theory of doing this and doing that. But even like through the internship, it's like, not to say this is a game, but it's like me actually being able to interact with the board to hear like, does this sound level sound right? Does this sound a little too low? Should I like turn down the MIDI? Should I do this? Should I do that? I feel like even that, maybe an internship itself in a way can be a game because it's all about experimentation and finding the best styles of where you can find more success and where you find the least.
You know, that's really interesting that you said experiential, because that is what an internship is supposed to be. It's supposed to be highly experiential. And that requires a lot of time and effort on an employer's side to make sure that it is that for the student. And so when Aubrey had said, oh, you know, the question was, did you feel like you got thrown to the wolves? And she said yes and no. Yeah, part of it is that, you know, if I'm always telling somebody, here, do it this way, this way, this way, there's no ability for that person to think for themselves.
That's true.
And she had to be able to go through that process to be able to make some mistakes. And I know that they will, because I make mistakes. And I think that most employers, if they build that we're human into that part of the equation, that we will make mistakes, then people will be a little bit more forgiving in that area and go, okay, you know, it's the first time you made a mistake, you don't want to do it again. Second time, it's like, okay. Third time, it's okay, dude, we've got to make sure that we're not making a mistake anymore, right? So but everybody learns at different speeds. How about you, Aubrey? What about you? Did you experience that, where you've worked? You've worked at a couple of places. And I know one of them was a retail place too.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what was the training programs, and was there any gaming involved in it? Maybe not even directly by the actual employer, but maybe something that was kind of organic in the store where people said, okay, let's see if we can pick up clothes really fast, or, you know.
I mean, I don't think I've had any like gaming experience at any employers.
As part of the training process.
Yes, as part of the training. I mean, the actual working, yes, we do have a couple games that we play to keep us like attentive and
That the employer gave
motivated.
you? Games that were to keep you motivated?
yeah, we make our own games.
Awesome. So it is something that's organic and kind of happened in there.
Yes. So it's not training wise, but you know, we do have this game like we have like this weasel squeaking toy, and they're like, okay, we're gonna set the timer for this amount of seconds, and whoever you know collected a payment and has the weasel, they get like a prize.
Oh, that's so fun. So see, gaming got involved in there without even really knowing that it was an HR. It wasn't an HR sanctioned thing. It's something that was creative and thought up.
It was, yeah.
By the people there. Yeah. Did you win?
Not yet, but
That's okay. The weasel. I'm going to have to remember that one. That sounds kind of scary. So there was a couple of other things here in this article, and let me just kind of wrap this article up here. It said training games arm companies with bite-sized play, points, badges, leaderboards, and rewards. And rewards can go a long way with people because we all like to be recognized for something that we do. So even if somebody does something outstanding and you share it on social, that's pretty cool because people know that you're proud, an employer is proud of what they contributed. Studies show that short bursts and spaced out training content can help individuals retain information more effectively. And when people cram information they learn all at once, they forget what they learn quickly. So cramming before the test, we already know statistically it does not work. And we get all messed up inside of our head. So if they learn information over an extended course of time with digestible snippets, then they're able to increase their knowledge up to 50%. So remember, you lose 90% of it in the old school style, but if it's consistent and repetitive, up to 50% of it will continue to maintain. I think that's why they say it takes 21 days to get a good habit.
To form a habit, yeah.
Yeah.
So something that the Chinese railway system has done for their conductors is as they're moving these trains and conducting and driving the trains, when they pass particular signals on the track, there are signs underneath it, little signs underneath that will light up, and the conductor has to press the corresponding symbol within the train that lit up underneath that particular sign as he drove as they pass it. What they were trying to do was raise the awareness of the conductors as to in what's going on in their environment, which they succeeded to do. The conductors are having a much more enjoyable time doing their job. They're not just getting bored behind the wheel, so to speak. But it also reduced any kind of accident rates by up to 85%.
Holy cow.
It was an amazing thing that they had done.
That is.
Just by having that little bit of interaction between the conductor and his environment.
And where was
So
this?
in China.
That makes so much sense. I was going to say Japan, actually, but, you know, that really, they're very progressive in how they think that way and in those cultures. And that is amazing to me.
So it wasn't just like, there's a sign, let me press a button. It was, there's a sign, this is the symbol that lit up under it, I have to press the corresponding symbol here. So there was thought process. So it really kept them more alert and attentive. So it was really cool.
Very good. Very good.
So the gamification continues.
Yeah, it does. So, and I want to give a little shout out. So the Intern Pursuit game tomorrow night, I am going to Indianomicon, their meetup, and I'm doing a demo of it out there. And I hear that there's like anywhere from 60 to 100 people in the room.
Nice.
And it's down at the Orlando Public Library. I think it starts at 6 is when I'm supposed to be there.
Downtown in the Melrose Center, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that,
second
do you go
floor.
to that?
I haven't been to Indianomicon in a while. I usually have something going on Thursday nights. So it usually conflicts with other tidbits of stuff that I'm doing.
So a little shout out if somebody wants to, that's listening or going to watch this later as it's recorded, want to come out to the Orlando Public Library at the Melrose Center, 6 o'clock to 9. They'll be able to see the demo of Intern Pursuit, and they'll be able to play it also. I'm going to hand out little slips that will have where to find it and a form so that we can collect information. We want to make sure that we're getting good information to improve our game. It's a demo, and I will tell you, you can actually go to internpursuit.com. You can look for the label that says IP game. You can download it, but sadly, it is not for Mac. It is only for PCs. So you can choose your character, male or female. They're both previous interns that have been working with me. Breezy is one, that's the character's name, and that's Brittany. And she's going to be on our show here. And then the other one is Del, and he's Delvin. He graduated from Full Sail, so that's why they're in the game. They were extra special and a part of that process. They turn into superheroes in the game when they go through a portal, and they fight aliens throughout galaxies. So we have 2 levels for people to play. Now, that's not an educational game. It's just pure entertainment. And it's just because I like superheroes and, fun things like that. So a little plug, shameless plug.
Well, I hope me and Aubrey someday get added to your game.
I hope so, yeah, because it's going to be like a big deal to be an added character in the game.
True.
Yeah.
But until then, let's talk about our sponsor number 2, BMDM Marketing Agency. BMDM is a direct marketing agency focused on helping companies reach individuals through online and offline means. Their newest product enables them to send postcards or letters to the homes of anonymous website visitors within 24 hours of their visit, using a patented IP matching technology and our in-house on-demand printing. You can find them at bmdm.com. Thank you, BMDM Marketing Agency.
That's very good. You do that so well.
Oh, thank you. I've been trying.
Yeah, you've been practicing. I can see that.
Yeah, that's a very cool technology they have. So it's
Yeah.
definitely worth checking them out. To be able to touch your customers or potential customers in a way that's unexpected by getting mail at their house is just fantastic. So
Yeah, and it's really kind of amazing how they do that because it's business intelligence is really how they use that. A viewer can go to a website, they would be able to look at it and see, oh, I like this product, whatever the product is. And then they can get actually something in the mail and they'll know exactly what that person may look like, their gender, everything about them. So it's amazing technology. That's innovation to me. It's like they know who I am before I've even talked to anybody.
yeah, it's like I really didn't know I needed this, but I really need this in my life.
Yeah, I might need that motorcycle, or I might need that car, whatever. Yeah, exactly. And actually, Chuck is going to be a guest on our show.
Oh, fantastic.
In February. So
Awesome. I'm looking forward to talking to them.
Yeah.
That's going to be kind of neat.
that's going to be good.
So we're going to shift gears a little differently here. We're going to get kind of personal. Miss Aubrey here is going to share some stuff on a very personal level with us, and we have some intriguing questions. You have lupus. Mm-hmm. So what is lupus?
Lupus is an immune system disorder. Instead of your immune system protecting your body, it actually attacks tissues like your lungs, your heart. It can attack any part of your body. So it's very unpredictable.
Okay. Is it manageable?
It is if you, see the doctor regularly and keep on top of it.
You have to manage your diet, though, right? And do all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to stay out of the sun. I mean, there's some restrictions that can make it go worse.
So is lupus contagious?
It's not contagious. They don't really know, how it's not genetic. It's not hereditary. They don't really know why you get it. But they do say like a majority of people like Asian, certain ethnicities, they do get it compared to other ethnicities.
There's more of a propensity for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this something like, has it limited you at all? I mean, I know you said that you can't sit out in the sun a lot and you have to watch what you eat.
Yes.
But give me some examples of how, if it has limited you at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, one good example is a trip that I made up north to Illinois. It was around November, and it was cold outside. And I learned after being hospitalized that my body couldn't tolerate being in the cold. So it's something, it's like a learning process.
So now she can't go snow skiing. That's what she's learned. She has to stay inside if you're in the cold. You can't be out in the cold for how long? What was the...
I mean,
obviously you could go and do some things, but you just can't stay out in the cold
yes, I would say,
for long periods of time.
yeah, have to limit that.
Now, is there like a medication regime that you put that you're on, or a regimen rather?
Yes, so the primary medication that I take is called Plaquenil, and that's basically standard for everybody that has lupus. And then sometimes they'll prescribe you if you're having like a really moderate or severe, stage, because there are different stages. They would give you steroids or other, depending on what body is affected.
What part of the body?
Yes.
So you said stages. Do you mean like it can flare up, for lack of a better term?
Yes, it can get really worse, or it can, be a mild. And, it can fluctuate up and down. There's really not like a set, timeline that it can stay severe or moderate.
It's more of an unpredictable type of
Very
thing.
much so.
Yeah.
So what are some symptoms? If we had someone who didn't know that they might even have lupus, what would be some signs and symptoms that they may want to go speak to their doctors about?
Definitely if you find yourself getting sick often, a lot, because that was
But when
my
you say
first.
sick, what is the sick? Is it head sick, tummy sick?
Well, it's
What is
sick
it?
just like catching a cold a lot more frequently than normal. Because that's when I first started the stages, I was getting sick a lot and I didn't know why. And it's your immune system. It's not, protecting your body from getting sick. So that's like the first sign that you should be alert. If you have like a lot of swelling and like, a lot of fevers, that's also another symptom. For me, I get like a rash on my face. With lupus, you feel like you have the flu every day. You have a lot of joint pains, a lot of
Is there a
aches.
fever?
You do get a fever from time to time, so you do have to keep watch of that. That's one of their symptoms as well.
So it doesn't sound like it's something that you may not recognize right away, because if it's masking itself as a flu, then it might take a little while for it to be discovered.
Yes.
Yeah, or if you might think, well, I'm just sick all the time.
Right.
And so you may not go and seek and, see a doctor. Because if you just think, well, my stomach was upset today, or I had a headache or had a fever, you might just dismiss that. And so you get like really sick and then go to the doctor with the flu or whatnot.
Exactly.
So
How long did it take your doctor to figure out what you had?
It took 3 years.
3
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yes.
That's awful.
I was getting sick a lot in the hospital, to the point that I was spending weeks at a time at the hospital. And they did some blood work, to see why do you keep getting sick. It was really severely sick. And in the blood work, they did 3 times, and it showed up lupus in my blood. And so that's when they started, treating me for the lupus.
And how long have you had it, if you don't mind me asking?
I was diagnosed in 2013.
Okay. And how long do you think it took for that? How long do you think that learning curve was for you to actually like understand how to manage it?
I am still trying to understand how to manage it. I've lived my whole life, a certain way, and then, being sick out of nowhere and having to make some adjustments and changes, like, oh, you can't go to the beach as much as you used to. It's still, a learning curve, yeah.
Yeah. So lots of rest. It sounds like it's usually treated the way that we usually treat flu. So she has to get a lot of rest. She has to eat. We talk about this a lot. So like, what did you eat? So sugar is really bad for us. We already know that, right?
Yeah.
But that is one of those trigger foods, or it's not even a food, but trigger foods, we'll say, that can actually cause a lot of flare-ups. And so we were talking, and I found a meetup, and it was specifically for individuals with some type of immune disorders. And I think, have you gone to that meetup?
I haven't yet, but
Yeah,
I'm
I haven't
definitely
made it either.
interested.
Yeah. So that's like a really nice support group where people
Yeah.
can learn more about what it is, and there's different types of immune disorders that people can have. Lupus is just one of them.
So as an employee, do you work with your employer? Does your employer understand what you go through and that you may just not be able to make it into work on a moment's notice?
Thank goodness that my employer is completely understanding. He actually said that his mom suffers from it and he's watched her suffer. And so he's completely understanding and compassionate about it and my situation.
That's fantastic because a lot of times you get in a situation where you are required to be, behind your desk not 24/7, but
Yes.
8 to 5 regardless.
Yep.
And if you miss a day or 3 or whatever, then they're going to start looking for your replacement.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, you're blessed to have a position that they understand that in. So that's
Definitely.
very, very good. So if for our listening audience, if you feel like these symptoms sound familiar, you can go check out lupus.org. You can also go there and you can join the fight with them to contribute some funds if you have any available to help research, to hopefully help people who suffer from lupus and get them back in the workforce and back having a quote unquote normal life. So.
Yeah, being compassionate about that and empathy are, they're two different types of emotions that we have, but it's really important to be able to understand. Basically, everybody has something wrong with them, and if we remember that, again, we're humans, we'll be more understanding of what it is that particular person is going through. It may not be the same as me, but it's still something, and we need to be cognizant of it.
So, me turn it again back when you were working with an intern. Was something like that ever brought up? Like, if they called in sick, you're like, I get it, I understand. Were you able to, as Isabella just said, were you able to take your own experiences and project them on, or use that in your internship or with your intern underneath you?
Definitely. I am, in the job that I work, I do come across, many elderly people that they're going through medical situations, even though it's not the exact same as mine. So I definitely understand like their position and what they're going through.
And it's not even lupus, so it's just something,
just something else. But
Yes.
again, it's the human condition we all have, and so be able to empathize with somebody is very, very important. So I commend you for that, definitely.
So I know that maybe we can talk about something that's more light.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back to the idea of innovation.
Okay.
And discuss that. And the 10 starters. So down at Canvas or inside of Starter Studio, they're going to be bringing in these 10 new starters. And they have all different types of innovative thoughts and products and services that they want to bring in. Some are around VR, is what I heard. And then there were some others that have something that's a medical product. And they haven't disclosed the what the companies are or who they are or what the products are. But they've said that these are going to be some really game changer type of products and services. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. One of the best things about Canvas is that they offer so many great services to help us explore what those options are. And a little announcement too, they're going to be changing their name. So you may not have known that. They are rebranding, so it's going to be under a new name. I can't give too many details out. They're having their February 22nd is their launch of their new brand. So they've already been providing the teasers that I've shared in their social feed. So there's nothing there that couldn't be announced, but nonetheless, if you come down, there's going to be a new name over there. The programs will have a different type of a name, and it's to bring all of the services together. So in that space of innovation, has anybody else seen anything that's really cool and innovative out there?
Orlando-wise, or just...
Well, yesterday, or no, Monday, Jerron and I were talking, and I was looking on a website to see what's the latest in the things of innovation. And one of the things that I saw was a vehicle that had fruits and vegetables in it. To me, I'm going to
my
have,
goodness.
and it would just like drive right up, and then you pick it right off. So it's like a vendor on a street.
As a matter of fact, in my previous job at Thermo King, we serviced that vehicle to make sure that when those fruits and vegetables showed up, they were still refrigerated.
Oh,
wow.
nice.
So we saw they came in quite often. So, with different vehicles, so some of the trucks were in they're recycled school buses sometimes.
Now, were those driverless vehicles?
No, they were not.
Okay.
No, they were not
So there was
driverless.
somebody driving
Yeah,
it.
somebody
Okay.
driving it. Yeah, basically, they're bringing the farm to the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a farmer's market on wheels.
Oh, nice.
So they're very, very cool. They get in places where some people may not have the ability to get out and get to somewhere where they can get fresh food, fruit and vegetables.
Food deserts.
Yeah.
They call those food deserts.
And so now we can drive it right out to them. Yeah, those are very cool.
That's nice. Kind of reminds me of old school, what was it, bookmobiles.
Yeah. I
They
haven't
don't
seen-
have
oh,
those,
my
but
goodness,
apparently we
yeah.
bring the food to you.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger Uber. So I thought that was an interesting thing. And then what else, Jerron? We saw something else that was on there, and it was like underwater. It was drones.
Drones. Yeah.
The underwater drones.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting here going, okay, that just sounds like a submarine to me. So I don't see how it's different, but is it like, do you know what that
Well,
is?
it's unmanned, for one.
Okay.
Which is automatically a lot safer,
Yeah.
especially considering we don't really, like when it comes to the ocean, that's something we still don't really know as a civilization because we haven't really explored it. So to have something like a drone that is unmanned, I feel like we would learn a lot more about just the world itself.
So it's got a camera on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's looking around wherever it is in the depths of the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, we already have a lot of underwater unmanned submersibles, but when you insert the word drone, it's smaller in nature. So to be able to do smaller tasks, taking a quick survey underneath the boat to check out the bottom of the hull, for instance, it would be great
okay.
application for
I
a
can
drone
see
to do
that.
that.
Yeah.
Looking at the rotors at the back of it, seeing if they're chipped. There's a lot of things that could do that sometimes they used to put a diver in the water for. So now you don't have to do that. You don't have to put a person in the water to go look at anything. And the smaller aspect of the drone means your cost will go down. So now you don't need an underwater submersible UAV to go under there and look for things. You can just send a small underwater drone.
Interesting. Okay, now see, you brought up some points that I actually had not thought about, and so that's helpful for me because I'm going, I don't know, what am I doing? I'm just throwing it in the water, and it's just like swimming around like a fish. It just,
Sure. In fact, it probably has some that look like fish. With
Yeah,
them.
well, and then if I'm putting it in the water, I'm now thinking, because of what you said, I'm going, how could there not be a bigger fish that comes, oh, it's something to eat, and then eat the drone? Now that's a lot of technology.
That's
to lose.
interesting. They need to be shark proof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shark proof or whatever kind of fish that might go and do that. Whales are not always giant. There are some smaller ones.
Yeah. Don't know. Maybe just either lights might scare up, like instead of the bioluminescence that fish use, maybe there's just some LEDs on around this thing that scare fish away. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Or maybe some kind of a sonar that keeps them away.
Irritates them. That would
Yeah.
be bad, though. We already have enough problem with noise pollution in the oceans. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
huge whole other story that we don't have time to dive into. It's probably not the right format for it anyhow. So.
No, it's
Dive
not.
into. I see what you did
Ah,
there.
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I
That
got
was
jokes.
funny. You're very quick.
Yep.
So those were some of the innovative things that I had that were standing out to me when we were doing a search to just see like what's out there. So
So I got the opportunity to work with a local maker group over at what was the event at the Science Center a couple of weeks ago?
Otronicon?
Otronicon, thank you. And this is the Maker Effects group, and they had a very cool setup there with 24 cameras, very, very small cameras.
that's a lot of cameras.
Very small ones, though, that run off of what's called a Raspberry Pi, which is a very small computer. And these 24 cameras were set up in a circle above you, pointing down at you. So you went into a big, large circle that you could fit, larger than the table that we have in front of us here. This was a large sphere that you walked into with curtains all around it. And it counted down 3, 2, 1. All 24 cameras then took a picture at that exact same time. And then they stitch it together into a movie. And when you see your movie, you see yourself rotating around.
Oh, wow.
Even though you were stable, standing one position, it shows you from all the way around, kind of like the Matrix. So it's bullet time cameras, what they're called. And what was neat about it is you tell people 3, 2, 1, and they would jump. And you have the hair, so your hair would go up, and then you'd have a 360-degree picture of yourself jumping and your hair going crazy. Or one guy jumped up in the air and dabbed. I think it's the first aerial dab I've ever seen, and hopefully the last aerial dab I'll ever see.
So somebody else was at Otronicon, and actually our guests that will be coming up on the 14th, Hunter Kelly and Jose Contreras, they were at Otronicon with their product, and Hunter was doing, I don't know if you saw this, where he was pretending he was a weatherman.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that over there with the green screen or the blue screen that they have. Yes.
Yeah, that looked like a lot of fun. I missed Otronicon this year, but it is so much fun. You get to see anything that's super fun. They have little R2-D2
Yep, the
robots.
R2 Club, yeah.
Yeah, so the little robots are driving around throughout the place, and you can play just about any game you can imagine.
What I like about it, I was there for a couple of days, and what I really like about it is when you go into the medical section, and they've got these huge robotic arms that they're letting kids. These are $1 million+ robotic arms, like extremely down to they're performing surgeries on people.
Wow!
And they're letting kids pick up little whatever's popcorn kernels and cutting things with it, and they're just playing this video game. And it's
So did they bring these big robotic arms in?
Yes, they did.
And so how are the kids doing this? That there's a smaller console?
There's a console that it's just it's like a video game for them. And so they're playing on a small console. They learn it real quick, and now they're looking at a screen. They're not looking at the actual arm and hand doing anything. They're looking at a screen in front of them playing a little video game. And meanwhile, this thing's doing a surgical procedure.
So they're training.
They're
See, it
training
goes
up.
back
Yep,
to
it
that
sure
article.
does.
They're training them to be our surgeons in the
Yeah.
future. But there was also something that in those innovation things where robots are now doing surgery. And see, that takes it back. I'm saying, no, I don't want a robot.
The
doing it.
driverless, you don't want the doctorless surgery is what you're saying.
No, I don't. I want to know that there's a person, that there's somebody I'm connecting with.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
Hopefully someone's always going to be there making decisions at the time. So.
Oh, we have a visitor. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
If it's going to be over here, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we'll be out in enough time. Yeah, yeah, we'll be ready. So okay, so that's our little reminder that we have somebody that's coming in.
Yeah,
that
we
may
get
see-
bumped around. It's
Yeah, we are. So it looks like we're going to be wrapping up our show now.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it.
Yeah, it is. So we're coming down here, and we have, this is my turn over here.
Yeah.
I want to give a special shout out to Valencia College for their programs that they have here. I love the school. I didn't graduate from here, but I tell you, I love the school as much as the school that I graduated from. And I want to also say a special thanks to John Q, the director of the whole program. He does so much to keep everything running for us here. But Valencia College, that's where our radio program is run out of. The East Campus has state-of-the-art social broadcasting studio, a great atmosphere, knowledgeable staff, a fantastic environment to produce it in, and easy equipment to learn. However, I haven't tried to learn it yet.
We'll get you over here next week.
Okay,
And we'll
okay,
do that.
I'll
We'll switch
try.
spots.
All right. Remember, it takes a lot of time to learn
Sure it
that.
does. Aubrey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
really sharing a lot of your life with us. Really do appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Got any shout outs to anybody out there who might be listening?
My mom, my dad, my husband. Thank you guys for letting me come here. Mm-hmm. It was an honor.
Yep, I'm super thankful that you're here. And I also want to say thank you to Andy and Sharon for being here. Yeah, you make the show flow so much smoother. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
We try.
All righty. So can we go out with the music?
Yeah,
Oh, of course.
Sure, yeah. We'll hit
Okay,
that.
our Intern Pursuit game music.
And we will see you guys next week.
All right, thank you.
This has been the Intern Whisperer. Thank you, and see you next week.